As a reminder, please turn off your or silence your cell phones. Good morning. You are attending the Animal Matters Commission hearings for July 3rd, 2023. The Animal Matters Commission was established and is conducted in accordance with Article 12 of the Anne Arundel County Code. These are administrative hearings, and by nature, they are informal, which means you are not hampered by rules of evidence.
Okay, so we are going to go ahead and call the first case.
You may briefly tell the commission about the history. However, please focus on the issue at hand. After each case, the commission will have open deliberations. During these deliberations, the public may not participate. If the commissioners have an additional question, you may answer that question. No further information will be heard and a decision will be rendered. This decision is a recommendation to the chief of police or their representative. The recommendation of the commission will be taken into consideration and a final decision will be made by the chief of police or their designated representative. If, as the defendant in the case, you are unhappy with the decision of the commission, you may appeal. For citation cases, appeals are made through the District Court of Maryland. For administrative orders, which are potentially dangerous, and vicious orders, appeals are made through the County Board of Appeals. Please call the first case.
First case is Daniel Dory versus Antonino DeSandro. And bring those candidates up. Please do not begin speaking yet. So all parties who have an interest in this case who wish to testify, please utilize the raise hand function so I can promote you to panelists, which you have done. And I'm going to ask you both if you can try to turn on your cameras. Oh, hold on. I seem to have somebody wrong. Let me just move you down. Sandra is still stuck.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. I see Mr. Dory. Hang tight with us, Mr. Dory. I want to see if we can get Mr. DeSandro on. Okay. If you can please raise your right hand and keep your hand raised. Do you declare and affirm under the penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Oh, Mr. DeSandro, if you can try unmuting.
I do.
Thank you. And then one at a time, we'll start with you, Mr. Dory. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Daniel Dory, the second, 1635 Shore Drive, Apartment 1, Edgewater, Maryland, 21037.
Okay, Mr. DeSandro.
Antonino DeSandro, 1819 Keymar Road, Edgewater, Maryland, 21037.
Please utilize the mute function if and when you are not the party that is speaking, and we will go ahead and move forward with the case. And Ed, I think I leave it to you from here.
Okay. I believe, Mr. Dory, you are the complainant in this case. You may begin with your testimony.
Okay, just say what happened.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was walking my dog Buddy with a neighbor, Tim Taylor, and his dog. And we walked our dogs down to the beach and we sat on the bench, and we were there for a few minutes when Antonino and his friend walked up with his dog, and they approached the bench. And when my dog looked around the back of the bench, his dog attacked mine, and I had to take him to the emergency vet to have his ear stitched back together. And at first, Antonino said that he would pay for the vet bill and that he was sorry. But then as he talked to his friend, he said that he didn't feel that he was responsible for the bill.
Okay. Is there anything else at this time?
That's it.
Okay. I'm sorry, my video is glitching here a little bit. With that, Mr. DeSandro, you can provide your testimony at this time.
Thank you. I hope everyone can hear me.
I can.
Great. Thank you. Again, my name's Antonino. My dog is Ollie. He's a 40-pound Pomeranian Husky that's registered with Anne Arundel County and has all his vaccines and shots up to date. The event in question happened April 10th between 7:15 and 8 p.m. As Daniel mentioned, I was on a walk and ran into Tim and Tim's dog, Drake, at the London Town Beach, Section 2 beach. On this walk with my plus one, I arrived at the location like Daniel said. I have notes in front of me too, just to make sure I don't forget anything. I ran into them both. I'm acquaintances with Tim. I've met Tim before. Our dogs are friendly. Upon arrival, I also met Daniel once before this happened. Upon arrival at that beach area, I made sure to acknowledge and say hi to both parties and say hello. I'm like, how are you? Just a normal, casual conversation. Upon saying hello to both, I was acknowledged by both people. My dog began to play with Tim's dog, the other gentleman that was there with Daniel, as they're friendly and they play together all the time. Drake is the name of Tim's dog. My dog Ollie and Drake began to play together on this concrete bench that's at the park. At which time it was probably like a minute in after I said hello and my dog and Tim's dog were playing, that Daniel's dog was there next to the concrete bench. There's a concrete bench between us. And as my dog was playing with the other dog, Daniel's dog was to the left on the opposite side of the bench, concrete bench. And I mentioned concrete bench for the sake of implying the visibility and whether or not my dog could see Daniel's dog. It was at this point that Daniel's dog came around the concrete bench into the visibility line of my dog. And coming around the bench, the dogs then had an encounter. Then the altercation ensued. Being that I had the dog's leash, and this is the most important point, is that after the altercation ensued, I had the leash in my hand for the entirety of the altercation. So I was able to break both dogs up at that point to the best of my ability, using both the leash and my own hands to get in between them and separate them as fast as possible. Once doing that, mind you, there was a delay in the reaction from Mr. Dory, because the leash that was attached to his dog's neck was on the ground and not in his hand. It was held down by his foot or wedged into the concrete bench that was that they were both sitting on. So the leash was not in his hand. He had a cigarette in one hand and a soda can or drink of some sort in the other hand. That led to the delay in breaking up the altercation that happened, and the lack of securing his pet that was with him at the time. I'm not sure if it was his pet or his mom's pet. At this point, once Daniel noticed that the dog had an injury, he then took another puff of his cigarette, another drink of his drink, put it down, went to the dog to inspect the dog. And as soon as he realized that there was damage to the dog, immediately, injury to the dog, he immediately said, "You're paying for this. You're paying for this." And obviously, me being sympathetic, a dog lover, and that was traumatic, obviously, your heart's pumping, you feel bad, you see a dog bleeding. I'm going to say, yes, of course. Yeah, whatever it takes. So it was at that point, Daniel called his mother on the phone, and I could hear the mother yelling on the other line, saying, "What happened? He's paying for this. Get his information. He's paying for this." And then they get off the line. She gets there 2 minutes later, a couple minutes later. And then it's at this point that 1 or 2 minutes we were waiting for his mom to arrive to take the dog to the vet, that the person I was with told me, and as well as the other witness that couldn't make it today because he's at work, Tim Taylor, to protect myself, because they noticed as well that Daniel did not have the leash in his hand and the leash was on the ground, and that caused the altercation. Once this happened and I began regaining a normal composure after that event happened, I shared that with Daniel. And when his mom arrived, as soon as she got there, she got out of the vehicle and started yelling and screaming, saying that I'm paying for this, you're paying for this, quote unquote, over and over, you're paying for this, yelling and screaming, as if I didn't feel bad enough that the dog was hurt. Now I felt like I was being personally attacked. Obviously, I never want to see a dog get injured, and I felt bad, sympathetic, and just wanted to help in any way I could. So once she got there, she got the dog with Daniel, and they rushed it to the vet. It was at a later point that I was relayed the information of the vet bills, and that Daniel would like me to repay the vet bills. And it was at that point that I chose to protect myself. And that same night, I requested from the London Town president of Section 2, or the president of the whole entire London Town neighborhood. That same night, I requested the video footage be saved and recorded from the London Town Beach section right there, to prove my innocence, just in case Daniel were to raise a case, in which he did 1 month later, because the event happened April 10th, and it wasn't until the next month that a citation was submitted. And here we are 3 months after the fact, having this call today. And so that being said, I worked with Robin Catlett to have the video footage obtained, and I hope that that can be used today to prove my innocence and to prove that Daniel did not have a secure handle of his pet at the time and was aware of my presence as well as my dog's presence.
I have the video obtained from London Town, and I will go ahead and press play. I do want to give everyone warning, and the folks from London Town did advise that the pauses that happen in it, and that just is how the video is. So I'm going to go ahead and press play.
I believe there was a pause. Are we able to return to the 1 minute mark? I noticed there was a pause for about like 15 seconds. Um, I would like to make note of at this point, Mr. Dory's dog coming around the concrete bench without leash in hand. You can see my dog is the black and white dog playing with Tim's dog Drake on the right side of this bench. I also have a witness on the call, Roberto, who's also present.
Just want to note if we're going to have Roberto speak, I'll have to swear him in.
Of
Correct.
Roberto is the one in this portion of the video currently holding Ollie, who is approaching Tim and Drake's dog at the moment. Right here, we're waiting as Daniel's on the phone calling his mom to have her come and pick them up and take them to the vet. At a further point in this video is when Mr. Dory's mother arrives to pick them both up. The main point of this video, which I would like to have better quality, obviously, but the main point is that I did approach the concrete bench. I did acknowledge both people by saying hello, which was reciprocated. They were aware of my presence and Ollie's presence. My dog played with Tim's dog, Drake. I was there, and at no point did you see Daniel with a leash in hand at any point of this video, or make any attempt to stand up or have the leash in his hand or restrain his dog in any way whatsoever. I also want to bring to mention the quality of the leash that the dog, Daniel's dog, had. Unfortunately, Tim is not on this call as he works at Fort Meade and is unable to attend this Zoom for the sake of validity of the leash, the quality of the leash in question.
Okay. Did you make mention that there was another portion of the video?
There was, I asked the president to save 45 minutes worth of video to make sure that I obtained all the articles needed. It looks like that video was only 2 minutes, but probably a minute or two after that was when his mother arrived to pick up the dogs.
Okay, so you don't have that part?
I was hoping that all came in one piece that would be in that video. I know Robin was in contact. Robin Catlett.
Do we have that video, Robin?
I can try to pull up that huge one. What I did with the county's computer folks was get it down to the specific incident, as that's the matter that we're really here for. But I can try to pull up that other one. Give me one moment.
Mr. DeSandro, the video that we saw did have some pauses and stuff in it. Is the original video that you saw, was it the same way, or did it play more smoothly?
So the video in question, when I was speaking with the president of my neighborhood, said it's only to be released to Anne Arundel County
Okay.
police, I guess you could say, or enforcement. That's why I worked with Robin, who was a great help in getting that footage for this meeting today. So
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure there was no discrepancy, that you hadn't seen something in the video that we weren't able to see.
And just to be clear, I did ask them, and their Miss Miller's response was, unfortunately, it's the camera, that it was a direct download, but it's an old camera, approximately 10 years old, and unfortunately has the split lens and the pauses.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to make sure that he wasn't describing something that only he could have seen. Thank you.
Okay, so Robin, you're looking for that?
Yep.
Okay, while Robin's looking for that, Mr. DeSandro, did you say you had another witness?
yes, I have Roberto on the call with me today.
Okay, Mr. Roberto DeSandro can give his testimony at this time while we're waiting for Robin.
Let's have him make his screen.
Actually, Robin will need to swear him in.
Yeah, he'll need to make his screen visible and raise his right hand.
Right.
Do you declare and affirm under penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Roberto DeSandro. I live in 6221 West Post Road, Chandler, Arizona. And yep, I normally go by Rob to make it easier. I think I might have blocked out. I don't see anybody.
No, you're good. We hear you.
Okay.
Here-
Okay, so well, Antonino pretty much covered it really, really well, and he got all the details. I'm gonna just add on to what I remember that he didn't add in. Basically, Del Mar Road, it goes up a hill, and as we're on top of the hill, we saw them turn around, acknowledge us, gave a wave. As we're coming down the hill, we approached them, and as you can see, as the dog whips around, he was growling. He was growling, and if you notice, Ollie's tail the entire time was completely curled up in a playful manner because he associates Tim as the guy who gives him treats, that has treats in his pocket. He loves Tim. He loves Tim's dog. Basically, Ollie was perched up playing with the dog on the bench, sniffing around, waiting for his treat, and the dog comes around growling, and basically Ollie just kind of falls into him, goes down, and I heard a dog yelp. I thought it was Ollie who got bit, but when they got broken up, the dog kind of backed away, and after probably 10 seconds, his ear starts bleeding. Like I said, he pretty much covered everything. Basically, when he got his mom on the phone, his first comments were, "You're going to pay for this, you're going to pay for this," but also on speakerphone, the first comment out of her mouth also was, "You're going to pay for this, you're going to pay for this." When she got there, the footage that you don't see, I'm guessing because I might have had the dog restrained, she comes at me and states that I'm going to pay for this. It's your fault, your fault. I said, "No, ma'am, it's not." And she states, "You're going to pay for this, you're going to pay for this." I was like, "No, ma'am, I'm not." And she got really nasty with me again. And I said, "Ma'am, it's not my dog, but it wasn't his fault." I'm trying to think of anything else that we could have missed there, but later on the walk home, Tim also mentioned that, I don't know, his name was mentioning that he was drinking earlier. Tim said he said it was vodka. I don't know if that plays anything to this, but I wish Tim could be on the line also. Antonio pretty much covered everything. The video shows the aggression, shows the playful of Ollie's tail. I'm trying to think of anything else I could bring up, but
Rob, did you witness Mr. Dory with the leash or without the leash?
no, as I was walking up, I noticed it was kind of like in the backside of his left foot, but because Ollie had his tail playful, the dog was just sitting there. Tim's dog was playful. I really didn't think much of it. I noticed the second that he comes whipping around, the leash went flying off his foot, and really didn't even make an attempt to try to grab it again. Antonio said that even after it happened, he hesitated. He took a couple more puffs of the cigarette and a little sip of his drink, and then was still telling Antonino that he's going to pay for this. I don't know, anything else?
Okay, would that be it there, Mr. Roberto DeSandro?
Yeah, like I say, Antonio went to pretty good details of what happened, and the video pretty much shows step by step.
Okay, and Robin, do you have that bit of video yet?
Yes, I'm just trying to get the share screen working for it.
Okay,
Roberto, just this may sound obvious, but I just want to have an understanding. So when you saw Mr. Dory's dog, the dog side of the leash was in fact attached to Mr. Dory's dog, and the human side was not in his hand, but it was under his foot or around his foot. Is that your observation?
Well, as far as I could assume, because as you can see, I kind of went around because I was going towards the Tim, and I said, "Hey, Tim," because I've met Tim before. I've never met that other guy. So I was kind of further away, but I just assumed that it was under his foot because of how the dog was sitting and how normally dog owners keep their leash. I didn't physically see it under his foot, but even if it was under a foot, sitting down on a park bench with not much weight on your foot, I didn't see it under his foot, but I assumed that it was under his foot or somehow in his possession where he could actually utilize the leash from the dog being able to just whip around with no sort of restraint.
Antonino, is that your contention as well too, that the dog part of the leash was attached to the dog and that the human part was not
Yeah,
attached to Mr. Dory? That's your understanding?
100%. Yeah,
Okay,
1000%.
okay.
The leash
Okay.
was not in any control whatsoever. It was just on the floor.
Okay,
Yes, correct.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
You hear me? Is the video showing now?
Okay,
Yes, I see the video.
I see the video as well.
Is at this point, you can tell that Mr. Dory's dog comes around the concrete bench. My dog's currently playing with his tail wagging with Drake, which is Tim's dog. Throughout this whole thing, you notice Daniel does not stand up, nor does he have a leash in his hand. I also want to make note that through this altercation, my dog did have a little scab above his eye, nothing that required any medical attention. It eventually scabbed over and there's just like a black mark above his eye now.
And you could also see Ollie wasn't even aggressive towards that dog. He got excited because he saw Tim and he was still associating Tim with a treat that he still wanted.
At this point, where's the leash in relation to Mr. Dory? What's your observation of that?
You can tell it's underneath both of the feet at this point.
I can't see that. That's why I'm asking. I don't see that.
Can we rewind maybe 5 seconds or so, 10 seconds or so?
It's a really thin leash, but
Yeah, Tim, the gentleman that was also there, he couldn't make it today, quote unquote, said that barely intact and not safe for a dog, and he wouldn't even trust it on his pet hamster.
It looks like the leash is in his hand to me.
Because it is.
Actually,
at
I'm
this
seeing
point.
a cell phone in one hand.
yeah, at this point he's talking to his mom after he put his drink down and put out his cigarette.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time definitively seeing a leash, but that being said, I mean, I think at one point maybe I see it laying there, but it's really hard
Yeah,
to tell.
right.
Yeah, see it now in his hand.
Yeah, I can kind of
it's
see
right.
it. Yeah, against the water, I guess you can kind of see it.
It's tough.
Are we able to go to the footage immediately prior to the altercation when his dog whips around the corner?
See, now you look there, if the dog's on the leash, that's probably a 6-foot leash.
Well, yeah. You can see Tim's leash really well, but you really can't ever see his thin leash.
will that be all of the video that you wanted to show? I thought that, thought we had said something about when the mother arrived or something like that, that you wanted to show that. That's what we were waiting for.
I mean, uh,
I'm not sure that's relevant.
yeah, I don't think it is. I mean,
Yeah,
we're here
I
for the
agree.
dog. We're not here for what anybody said about who's paying for what. We're here for the incident with the animal is what we're here for today. I think we've seen all we really need to see as far as the
Yeah.
video goes.
I
I
agree.
agree with Tom.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then that cuts it.
Do I get to reply to what they said?
Yes, sir. I'm going to make sure that the DeSandros are done with their testimony. Anything else, Antonio or Roberto? Anything else at this time? Okay, hearing none. Yes, Mr. Dory, you
Thank you.
now have an opportunity to respond and ask questions of any witnesses.
Okay. First of all, the leash was around my wrist the entire time I was there. And I don't know where they're getting that I was smoking a cigarette, because I haven't smoked a cigarette in 15 years.
I'd like to remind Mr. Dory that this is under oath.
Up. You cannot interrupt. You can mute while he is giving his testimony. Both of you mute while he's giving testimony. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Dory.
Like I said, I don't smoke cigarettes. I do have a vape. But the leash was around my wrist the whole time. And as far as Antonino saying that he was breaking the dogs up as best he could with his hands, that is untrue. The dog only made it right behind me to the back of the bench, and the attack lasted all of a second. I heard the growl and the yelp, and my dog was right back next to me right after it with his ear bit open. There was no time to break up any dogs. It sounded like a bite or two, and that was it. He walked behind me and then ran back over to me that quickly. There were no two dogs tangled up to break apart.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
And if you can go back to the video after he handed his dog Ollie to Rob, you can see that his dog Ollie is still trying to get back after Buddy. Still keeps trying to get back over there after Buddy. And Rob has to keep pulling the dog back.
Okay.
Members of the commission, did you want me to pull up the video again?
Mr. Dory, would you like to point that out in the video?
Yes.
Okay.
It's when he hands the leash to Rob, and Rob is holding the dog standing out on the cul-de-sac when Antonino is over with me and Buddy. And also, when they said that Buddy growled, you could see the whole time before this that Buddy's tail was wagging the whole time. He was excited to see another dog.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right then. Anything else, Mr. Dory?
I have the leash right here on the counter that I used. There's nothing mangled or ripped up about it. It is a thin leash, but it's completely intact. No frays, no tears, nothing.
Can you show that to us, please?
Yeah, we can't see it.
Yeah, you hold it.
Oh, sorry. Can you see it?
Yep.
It's just very thin, and there's
It's a thin nylon leash.
Very good. Okay.
I'm sorry, can you
And-
hold that up fully? Because I thought I heard someone say it was a 6-foot leash, and that doesn't look like a 6-foot leash to
I
No,
me.
did.
it's about 4 feet.
I did. It looked like a 6-foot leash when they were walking out to the to sit at the bench on the video.
It's-
That's what
the
I
leash doesn't-
perceived it to be.
The leash doesn't go all the way to his collar. It goes to the back of his back on the harness.
Harness. Okay.
So the leash sits further back than all the way up to his neck.
and this is his harness. And I'm his mom, and I was there to get the
You haven't been
dog,
sworn in,
and I'm not sworn in.
and you weren't there for the incident.
No,
Okay, no, you're,
I'm just curious, had these dogs ever encountered each other before? Was that the first time these dogs had ever been around each other?
I believe that's the first time that they were ever that close to each other. I've seen Antonino walking his dog before when I was walking Buddy, but they've never played together.
okay, is there anything else, Mr. Dory?
And the other thing that Tim couldn't be here, Tim was telling me that he wished he could because he was going to testify that Ollie attacked Buddy just out of the blue.
Okay. All right, do you rest for now?
Yes, I rest.
Okay. Mr. Antonio and Roberto, you have anything else?
I
Yes.
do. Go ahead, Antonino.
Just a couple of notes from Mr. Dory's points, that he was still trying to attack his dog after the fact. You can clearly see in the video that Ollie was trying to play with Tim's dog Drake on the right side of that video. He was not trying to get back to his dog. He wasn't growling or barking at his dog that whole time. You can see he was going to the right side of the screen because Tim and Drake both walked away, and he was staring at them trying to get Rob was holding Ollie on the leash, and he was trying to go to the right portion of your screen, and that's abundantly clear from that video, that he's going to the right, trying to keep playing and get a treat from Mr. Tim. Another point was that Mr. Dory stated that he could hear a bite or two. I have never in my life heard the sound of a bite. His dog was injured in his ear. There was no sound of a bite, let alone multiple sounds of a bite. There was an altercation, and I was the one who separated both of them. Or otherwise, they may have continued the altercation. I was the one that literally stood in with my hands, and you're not even supposed to break up dogs with your hands. I was in the middle of them trying to break them up with my hands, pulling my dog's leash to separate them. So yes, I separated them both from fighting. No, there was no sound of a bite. My dog was not running to go attack him further when Rob had the dog's leash in his hand. And I can guarantee you 100% that both of his hands were occupied, one by a cigarette, the other hand by a beverage that was in a can, the size of a soda can. So both hands were occupied.
Okay, is there anything else that would be new or relevant? I mean, I think we've got the picture here.
Well, he stated that his dog's tail was wagging the entire time. Dogs don't wag their tails when they're growling. And Antonio said that the dog, Ollie, was still focused on that treat from Tim like he always gets. Yeah.
And yes, one more further point. I did meet Mr. Dory for the first time a few days prior to that. And he was also with Tim on that day. Our dogs did meet on that day, and we did walk about a block or two with our dogs. And from that point, I went home. It started thunderstorming that day. That was the first time I met Mr. Dory, and he was walking with Tim on that in that interaction as well. So our dogs did meet a few days prior. That was the first time I met Mr. Dory. So that's another note I'd like to mention.
And there were no incidents then?
There was no incidents then.
Okay, and I think we've got most of the information we need. I'm just going to ask one more time, does either party have anything new or relevant to add? Mr. Dorsey, you're muted. You're muted, sir.
It just came up to unmute. I did have my vape in my hand, but I always had the leash on my wrist.
Okay.
Is there any way to reenact you sitting down and seeing how far that leash reaches out and how the dog could go completely around the concrete bench, given that the leash was in your wrist and the dog was still able to come all the way around the bench? I don't see how that's feasible at all.
Okay. Both parties satisfied with their presentations? Okay. With that, I believe.
And when he said that the leash couldn't make it around the back of the bench, he literally went right behind me from my left wrist to right behind me. It's easy for the dog to get around behind me while he's on the leash with it on my wrist.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, with all of that, I believe we are going to recess for deliberations now, closed for deliberations, rather, I'm sorry. And if there's anything further, we will contact you guys, okay? All right. We will start with, well, how about Dr. Hammer? Dr. Hammer?
Okay. Thank you, Ed. After listening to everything, I guess here's a couple of things that I have. Number one, I think all the dogs were leashed. The question really at hand is, were the dogs under control? Because in the county, I believe the code reads they have to be leashed and under control. And I think that's the telling part here. Unfortunately, the way I see the video, and unfortunately it glitches right at the point of the attack, I think everybody did have their dogs under control. I'm sensing this is truly just a real accident where basically the animals were leashed, the animals were under control. Either one or both of the parties were not reading their dog well enough to get the insight that the dogs were going to potentially get into a fight, and subsequently didn't have their guard up, and an accident ensued. That's how I see it. I certainly do have a question that seeing Mr. Dory's dog come around that bench and that in fact being about a 4-foot leash, even though it's attached to a harness, which is not at the neck, which would be a normal reference point, even if he had that in his left hand as he was sitting, I think that's a little bit of a reach for that leash to go all the way around that bench to allow the dogs to come face to face and have an interaction. So, those are my comments in terms of what's going on. I believe this to be a true accident, and the way I'm seeing it, based on the testimony presented, I don't see either one at fault as I'm seeing it.
All right. Jennifer?
I'm almost in agreement with everything Dr. Hemmer said. I guess but technically per the statute, as long as one dog inflicted a severe injury on another domesticated animal, it should be a public safety threat. And obviously that's what happened. But when I agree with Dr. Hemmer, when I see the petitioner's dog, how fast he came around that bench, I think the other dog was just startled and lashed out. I mean, it almost seems like the petitioner's dog might have been the aggressor, and I don't think it's a public safety threat if the other dog just reacted. So I'm inclined to dismiss. I mean, I obviously have sympathies. One thing the petitioner did not show, I hope everyone else had a chance to look at it, was there are pictures in the file of the injury. It's a rather large injury. It's over 3 inches, but it almost looks to me, and I guess I'd leave it to Dr. Hemmer because I'm not a doctor, like it was like a nip and then they pulled apart and that sort of like tore down the ear. So I definitely have sympathy for the injury that was inflicted on that dog, but it really seems to me, especially after watching that video, I think the video kind of speaks for itself, that Ollie just reacted as the dog came around so fast. And I agree that I don't see any indication in that video that Ollie continued to go after that dog. It's obvious he was getting excited over something off to the right of the screen and not back at the petitioner's dog, which was on the left. So I agree. I think it was an unfortunate accident. I don't think it's a public safety threat is what was cited, and I'd be inclined to dismiss.
Thank you, Jennifer. Lieutenant Tillman?
Good morning. Yeah, I agree. It's, as far as the payment stuff, that's a civil issue. That's not our purview. The code does state that you have to, that an animal inflicts injury on another animal, that by statute would be the public safety threat. However, they are allowed to defend themselves. The complainant, he walked his dogs towards the other guy's dog. So he willingly put his dog in that situation. However, I do believe that there was no maliciousness. It seemed it was just an accident, as stated earlier. And the last thing is that, actually that was the last thing. So yeah, I agree with the rest of the panel.
Okay. Welcome, Nicole. You're next.
No, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm not sure that I agree with the other panelists, but for Antonino bringing and introducing Ollie into the situation, this wouldn't have happened. And so while it may have been an accident, it was a public safety threat. It caused an injury due to Antonino introducing Ollie to the situation to Buddy. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Tom?
Yes, how you doing? Yes, I agree with Ms. Brienza and Dr. Hemmer. I believe that, the Mr. Dory's dog came around the bench. All those dogs are welcome to be there. It's a public place, and or it's a private beach where they all have access. That dog came around and, incited kind of to me, like brought its attention to the Mr. Antonino's dog. So I do think it was an accident. I don't see, the public safety threat at all. I think that, I just don't see it in this situation. I kind of agree with both Dr. Hemmer and Ms. Brienza said. I don't really, if the animals are allowed to both be there, if they're all leashed, I think if anything, it's hard to see and see the leash, whether it was, the purple leash that we were showed after the fact. I agree that if it was in his left hand, it might be possible for that dog to come around the left side. Left hand, I know Mr. Antonino was saying that it wouldn't be possible. I mean, if it was hooked to his left foot, same situation. I mean, the length of the leash would have been similar. So, yep, that's kind of where I'm at. So, thank you.
Okay. As far as my feelings on it, I'm kind of torn. The video and the testimony, I think, conflict just a little bit, in my opinion, when they said he came along and his dog stayed to the left of that concrete bench. It seemed like they hovered on the right-hand side a little bit longer, which may have added to it. And like I said, I'm torn. I wish we had authority to do some other things besides only decide whether it was a public safety threat or not. But we don't. So I guess we move on for a motion. I'm like I said, I'm kind of torn. I agree with Nicole to one degree, and I agree with the rest of the panel to another degree. It is a rough situation. We do have an injured animal through no fault of its own out there with $1,000 vet bill, which just doesn't seem right to me. But like I said, the only thing before us as a commission is whether or not this constitutes a public safety threat, and that is what we have to decide. So I'm open to any motion.
I mean, I'd move to dismiss based on the conversation that we've had. I do believe that at no time, Mr. Dory's dog was the only dog. He crossed behind the bench. I don't think Mr. Antonino's dog ever went to the other side of the bench, not that we could see in the video. So I'm going to just move to dismiss based on what I've seen and heard.
I agree.
I
I'll
second.
second.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second. Okay, all in favor? Okay, 4. And again, just to be clear, this commission can only rule on what is in front of it. And what was in front of us today is whether or not this situation posed a public safety threat. So with that, the motion was carried with
Sorry, Ed, I just want to check, were both you and Nicole abstaining, or were you voting against?
I abstain. Nicole, did you?
My dogs are barking, sorry. I think it should be upheld.
Okay, so you abstain for the record.
Sure.
I think she's against, I think is what she was saying.
Yeah, that's not an abstention. She's voting against.
Yeah, we have 4-4, 1 against, 1 abstention is the way I'm reading it, correct?
I agree, Dr. Hemmer.
Thank you. Just wanted to be clear for the record.
All right. I guess we can call the next case now.
The next case, complainant is Alante Frank, and the owner of the animal is Anna Williams, and I'm going to go ahead and bring them up. For both of you, please hang tight once you come up. And are there any other witnesses that need to be brought in for this case that I'm missing? You can utilize the raise hand function if there are any. And if both parties can turn on your video and raise your right hand, please. Keep it raised. There we go. You can both raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you declare and affirm under penalties of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Let me try to unmute you here, Mr. Frank. You can unmute and try to confirm for us again.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you guys been sworn in?
All right, and then we're gonna state names for the record. Name and address, please, Miss Williams.
Anna Williams, 1100 Beach Promenade, Orchard Beach, Maryland, 21226.
Okay, and Mr. Frank? You can state your name and address for us, please.
Mr. Frank, you seem like you're unmuted, but we can't
Yeah,
hear you.
your sound is not on there, Mr. Frank.
Mr. Frank, I think we've lost you for both video and sound. If you can try again for us.
He's trying. He's refreshing his.
Okay, can I be heard?
There you go. All right.
So if you can go ahead and state your name and address for us, sir.
Okay, my name is Alante Frank. The address is 1104 Beach Promenade, Orchard Beach, 21226, Maryland.
Okay.
And then I want to remind the parties to please utilize your mute functions if and when you are not the party speaking.
Okay. All right. We will begin. Mr. Frank, I believe you are the complainant in this case, so you will be stating your case first.
Understood. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. On March 26th of this year, between 1630 and 1700, I stepped to the bottom of the step in the back porch of this residence. I took a right turn and began walking. The residence is 1104 Orchard Beach. I took a right turn and began walking out. I heard a barking and growling. I looked up to find a brown white spotted dog with a stubby tail running at me and barking. I immediately turned back to the porch. I realized I wouldn't make it to the porch as the dog was approaching, and I turned to defend myself by lifting up my foot. The dog showed teeth and hunched down. I put my foot up to get ready to kick. The dog came forward. I kicked the dog. I fell backwards on a wooden plant pot. I felt pressure on my foot from another kick. I heard someone yell, "Heel, heel, heel." The dog returned to the residence of 1100 Orchard Beach by the way of the backyard. I sustained an abrasion on my left arm from the wood and a contusion on my left foot as a result of this encounter. And this has been documented by my urgent care visit, Wise Care Urgent, that I attended the 27th of March of this year. And I also have, if possible, a witness to also speak that this dog is found often without a leash, running quickly through this community area. And I also have 2 videos I submitted via email. And that's what I have.
Do you want me to go ahead and pull up the videos?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
To be clear, we're here for public safety threat, not when I'm just looking through the file, not at large, correct?
Yes.
Can you all see the screenshot that's showing right now before I press play?
Yes, Robin.
Yes, Robin.
Yes.
Can someone give me some context of what I'm seeing here, please?
Wow, you took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, where are we and what are we looking at?
If I may.
Sure, yeah.
Please, sir.
So that would be the dog moving fast, quickly across the backyard.
Who's
Is
so
this
that's
the day of the incident?
This is not the day of the incident. This is to show that, to demonstrate that this dog is often found without leash.
Okay,
And-
Mr. Frank, whose backyard were we looking at?
That would be Anna's backyard. That video shows the dog returning back to their backyard. And when approaching to the left, the dog would be entering the backyard is where I stay.
Okay, so the dog is crossing into you. Now stop the video right here. Like, just pause it for a second. Mr. Frank, can you tell me, where does your yard begin in that picture?
I believe there is a stake in the ground. Do you see that fence on the right-hand side?
Is it like a silt fence?
That's a wooden fence.
Oh, it is.
And that would be the divide.
Okay,
It's
all right,
just
so
behind
once the
tall
dog
grass
crosses,
right there. I'm sorry, just behind the lump of tall grass to the right here in the forefront of the screen. Just beyond that is the line.
Yes.
So once the dog jumps that hill, he's on your property.
To the best of my knowledge. And that's, again, me demonstrating with the video that this dog is found frequent without a leash and freely roams. And on that day of 26th of March, I was attacked. And that's why I went to urgent care to get my injuries assessed.
so are there two videos or are they
So,
two different
no,
videos?
I believe this is the same video on the same day of the dog approaching the yard and the dog leaving the yard.
Another question. I'm looking at the bottom left-hand side of the video. It looks like the corner of your porch. Is that, did you come down off of that porch?
That is correct.
Which I'm guessing the steps are what, a couple feet to the left of that? If I'm looking out,
Roughly about 10 feet.
10 feet to the left of that point is where this
About that
incident
point.
occurred.
Yes, that would be correct.
Okay.
Did you submit your medical report from urgent care as
did.
evidence? I don't see it in the file, Robin. Am I missing something? I'm sure I am.
Just gonna double look for it here.
See an affidavit of complaint. When I look at the case file, I don't see it in there.
It's
So if I'm
under
missing
Sorry,
something,
it's under vet care.
That
But-
records from Alante.
that's probably what threw me off.
If I need to, if Mr. Alante gives permission, I can of course do a screen share if that's better.
No, I've got it. Thank you, Robin.
Okay, Mr. Frank, is there anything else?
Do I, for a witness, was that something that needed to happen prior, or can a witness come at this time?
I'm sorry?
For the purpose of a witness to testify that this dog is often seen without leash, is now the time for this?
Well,
Actually, that's not.
Yeah, I
it
mean,
what
would
we're
be, but
discussing
that's not
here.
the citation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if we
citations
were
for
here
injury.
for running it large, I think it would be pertinent, but the fact that you've shown video kind of showing it already and we're here for a public safety threat, I think it's probably not super important, but
Okay, I will leave as be then.
okay, yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Not so much at large as it is public safety threat is in front of us today. So is that the only video that you had, Mr. Frank?
That is,
and to be clear, your witness did not witness the incident.
that would be correct.
Okay.
All right, then I guess you close at this point, Mr. Frank?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Williams, your response.
Hi. My dog's Nikki. That I want to point out that both of our yards back up to community property. So actually where Nikki is at that time is community property and there's a community beach. And my dog is often on an electric collar and is taken down there to swim under our control. I just want to tell you about Nikki. She's a German short hair pointer. She's at like 3.5. She's a nervous dog. She tends to, if I bring in an Amazon package or move a potted plant around, she's barking at it. She's full of energy and very fast. He's correct about that. She's always very excited. When she greets guests at her home, she jumps, she barks. She's an excited dog. I have some photos that just show like her personality. This is her at the dog beach at Downs Park. Here's her at our community beach on a surfboard. Here's her being friendly at a campground. Here's her with some baby chicks we had. Here's her hugging my son's girlfriend. She's a nice, friendly dog. On the day in question, I was sitting on my patio with her. I was reading a book and she was napping at my feet. I didn't see Mr. Frank come out of the house. When I looked up, she had ran in his direction and she was barking, and she did excitedly jump up at him, but I don't believe she would have hurt him or she was being aggressive. I believe she startled him. He did kick at her. He did stumble back. I did call her home and she came right back. So I just don't see her as a public safety threat. I don't see this as an animal attack. And that's pretty much all I have right now.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Frank, do you have anything else at this point?
Did I possibly label this wrong? I guess in regards for the complaint in regards to attacks of person or while at large chases? Because there might have been some confusion there in regards to I was the person that was attacked, but in the same sense, while at large, this dog chases or approaches a person in an aggressive manner. That might have been maybe fault of my own for ignorance in regards to how to approach this.
No, I think it's appropriate for the incident you described. I don't know if anyone else has any input with that. I think that there's also running at large, which is pretty cut and dry with the video that you showed, but that doesn't really get into the attacks or approaches that malicious. I don't have it right in front of me.
I just didn't know maybe I put a wrong claim here. I just wanted to demonstrate that this dog is frequently found off leash and I was attacked on this day. And I do have an urgent care medical bill to show for. Not asking for it to get paid, just demonstrating my attempts. And that's all I have.
Okay.
I mean, you all would agree that this in this situation,
you're right.
It seems appropriate, correct?
Yeah, you're right,
Appropriate
Tom. This
citation.
is, the headache we have is we just have to deal with what's before us today, which is the public safety threat attacks a person. But certainly based on the testimony from Mr. Frank, I think a couple of other things could have been checked off, but that's beyond the scope of what we're engaged to do today, I believe.
That would be correct. So both parties happy with your cases presented? If so, we will close for deliberations.
I have a question for Mr. Frank.
Sure.
In your statement of facts, you assert that you felt pressure on your foot from the dog. Are you implying that the dog bit your foot, or what exact pressure do you believe was happening with your foot?
For that foot incident, I really couldn't tell while I was falling. I know that there was pressure from a kick and I aimed for the mouth. I can say that I was not bitten to the skin. I made contact. There was pressure from the dog. It's difficult for me to say that this dog had bit me. Especially since it happened so
shoes
quickly.
on, or was it bare feet?
I did have shoes on. And yeah, because of this event, I no longer feel safe when entering the backyard. And it keeps me under a lot of vigilance. And I feel like that's an undue stress when I go about the backyard because of this event. And I don't like to feel that way.
All right, with that, Are we ready to close for deliberations at this time? I believe so, hearing no opposition to do that. So at this time, we will close for deliberations on this case. All right. Not to be repetitive, but we'll start with you, Dr. Hammer.
Thank you very much. I guess as I'm looking at it, I certainly feel for Mr. Frank's position. But looking at the citation as it's presented to us today and the medical notes or the medical summary we've gotten from Wise Care, Urgent Care, I'm not comfortable saying that this dog actually attacked a person. I think the injuries he suffered were a result of being startled and falling down the stairs, but I don't believe nor I feel that evidence has been presented to be consistent with a true dog attack. And based on that, I'm inclined to dismiss at this point.
Okay. Tom?
So I'm kind of, the only thing I would say is that Ms. Williams does admit that her dog did jump up, you know, on, I don't know about on, but she admits the dog did jump towards Mr. Frank. So, you know, that would be the only thing in this situation that would kind of have me want to uphold this. So Mr. Frank presented everything pretty specifically. Ms. Williams said she did see the animal kind of jump up. She didn't think that he bit or attacked per se, and he did try to kick the dog. So, you know, it's hard to say whether the dog reached out or his foot reached the other way. So, you know, I'd be willing to dismiss, but you know, I do think that it's tough to say exactly what happened without any video evidence, and the fact that, you know, again, with the medical, you know, with the medical report not really being specific to a bite or a puncture wound or anything like that. So, yeah, I'm kind of on the fence. I'll be honest with you. I'd like to hear what everyone else has to say.
Okay. Nicole?
So I looked at the statute to try to see if there was a determination on what attacks a person means, and there was no further information that I could find that would say, you know, an attack is defined as X, Y, and Z. So I'm struggling to find that this is an attack. I agree with Dr. Hemmer. You know, the dog startled Mr. Frank, and I definitely sympathize with the fact that now Mr. Frank is hypervigilant in his own backyard because of this incident. Obviously, I believe at large is a much more cut and dry situation, but recognize we're not here for that. Yeah, I'm on the fence at this point.
Okay, thank you. Lieutenant Tillman?
Good morning again. And looking at, again, the county code, there is a part that says attacks person, but if you go farther down, section 6 is while at large, which we all agree the dog was at large, chases or approaches a person in an aggressive manner. So the complainant, his statement stated he felt the dog came out of in an aggressive manner. There's, you know, without any video evidence, there's nothing to dispute what he is saying in it. And I don't believe the owner of the animals stated anything other than the fact that the dog did approach rather quickly the complainant. So I think we do hit the criteria for the public safety threat, no matter how mild it is, if you go underneath the fact that the animal did approach the other person who was perceived aggressive. So that'd be my thoughts on the matter.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer?
I agree with Lieutenant Tillman. I actually, until I heard some of the questions from Mr. Virgin and Dr. Hemmer, thought this was kind of cut and dry. 124402A6 is, I think, pretty specific. Everything I heard today meets all that criteria. And Ms. Williams, her statement was that the dog ran at Mr. Frank and barked at him, and Mr. Frank was on his own property. So if I have a dog coming fast at me and barking at me and showing teeth and everything, yeah, I'm going to take that as aggressive. So it's my opinion that this was a public safety threat, and I would vote to uphold the citation.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, had the at large been checked as well, I think we'd all be on the same page. But it wasn't. So do we add that in? Do we have that option? I don't think we do. I mean, it is what it is in front of us, and
I don't think it's not necessary to have a citation for at large in order to meet the criteria of section A6. We just need to find that there was evidence that the dog was at large. I think that evidence was presented and was undisputed, as a matter of fact.
So I think where we're at with this, at least let me rephrase that. Where I'm at with this is the attacks of person, and I'm certainly going to defer to Lieutenant Tillman and Jennifer because they are the legal experts here. When you read further down in that statute, when they talk about attacking a person, that's where that public safety threat, section 6, while at large chases or approaches in an aggressive manner, that's where you guys are pushing it down and saying that's part of an attack. I'm seeing it as a completely separate citation issue. So my comment is, I'm splitting hairs here. I'm not trying to convince anybody out of their position. I'm just explaining my position better. I think Lieutenant Tillman and Jennifer have certainly felt it was appropriate, but unfortunately, Mr. Frank did not check the right box. He's telling us he was attacked. There's no argument, I think, and the evidence does in fact preclude that number 5 is more applicable here. But unfortunately, he didn't check box 5, he checked box 4. And that's where I think we need to focus our attention. And those are my thoughts. That's why I'm going to dismiss, because perhaps a misunderstanding on Mr. Frank's part, and he can certainly file another citation. It's not because we dismissed this one that he can't file additional citations. But as far as this citation in front of the commission today, that's how I'm reading it.
I mean, I also see where, to your point, Officer Tillman, I mean, Ms. Williams did also state that she did not believe the animal was approaching in a fashion other than fast, potentially. I mean, in her opinion, it wasn't, it's how everyone perceives everything, right? If he's not a dog person, dog comes running at him, it's a different story. I have a German short hair pointer that, I'm sure could surprise people as well. I mean, in the same situation, but I agree. I mean, that's where I can see, that's where the public safety, where I guess we have to make that decision here today. And that's where I was on the fence, was I don't know. It's hard to say, one person versus another. One saying it was, yes, I felt threatened. The other person saying, I don't think my dog was being that threatening. He just ran up fast, which would be at large, in my opinion.
But I think,
I'm sorry, can I interject for a second?
please, Lieutenant.
In regards to what I think Dr. Hammer was talking about earlier, thinking that sections 4 for attacks a person and 6, while at large, chases in an aggressive manner, are separate charges altogether. Just for clarification purposes, there's one charge. These are all parts or different parts of the same charge. So to be found guilty of, or to commit a violation of 12-4-42, public safety threats, potentially dangerous, etc., to be found that you've committed any of these, it's an or, it's not an and. You have to do this and this and this, it's an or. If the animal inflicts severe injury to a person, that would constitute a violation. Or if it bites a person, or if it, I'm not going to go all the way through them, or until you get to section 6. So you don't need to attack a person. You don't need to prove that attack. You don't need to prove that it injured anybody or an animal. It's sort of like under like a traffic charge. If you have somebody driving or attempting to drive for, say, DUI, you don't have to do both. It's just one or the other. And then if something like that happened, then that would be an appropriate charge. So in this case, it's not a separate charge, it's the same charge. Now, if you did the other charges, like B would be a separate charge. C would be definitions, looks like. Yeah, there's different definitions in there, but this is only one charge. When you start getting to other charges, like potentially dangerous orders, they have different codes. This code, there's only one charge, and if you have any of these different criteria, all of them or one of them would be the actual charge. So, I mean, I'm not sure if that clears up or not, or if I'm just belaboring the point, but
Well,
only one
I
charge.
didn't realize that Dr. Hemmer was, I didn't realize until the last couple comments that we were talking about the actual boxes checked on the citation as opposed to the statute as a whole.
Correct.
And right. And now I understand the confusion that maybe he checked the wrong box. I guess my first question, and I'm just saying this out there because there's nothing that can be done about it today, is that somebody needs to look at revisiting this form, because there isn't a reason in the world why an incident wouldn't be more than one of these. So directing somebody to only pick one, I think, is a hindrance to the public. But the only issue I could see with this maybe would be that by checking the attacks a person box as opposed to one of the others, that might have impeded the defendant's notice as to what she had to present evidence in defense of. That could be an issue if we were in an actual civil court. However, based on the testimony I heard, I don't think that her notice, her due process was infringed simply because that attacks box was checked rather than box 6, and I'm inclined to uphold the citation anyway. Okay, wait, we have something from
that's probably the person to talk. Curran, can you jump in on this and kind of help me understand the law better?
Okay, so we don't even need to review that. We just need to review the statute. Is that correct, Corinne?
You need to review the citation itself. So on the citation, I don't have it in front of me, but there should be right around the middle of the page. It should note what the charges are that the citation is for. It'll have the statutory section, which would be 12.4, 402A. And then I don't know if it just says A. If it just says A, then it could be any of those 7 sections, 7 subsections that would fulfill it. If it specifies A1 or A4 or A6, then it's.
That's the problem, Corinne. It doesn't. It says Article 12, Title 4, 402, Public Safety Threat, and in parentheses, select one paragraph. And then with the paragraph options, they pick
Right.
the box that was checked was.
On the citation itself, if you go down and look at the actual citation, like the handwritten citation, it says paragraph 4 is actually there. So like halfway down the site, is that what you're talking about, Curran?
Yeah, so
On the
halfway
uniform
down where it
civil
says
citation.
paragraph 4, that it has to be attacks a person.
Right.
So that's what the commission has to vote on.
Right. So if you're in, I'm frozen up here. Oh, there you go. I guess I'm looking at Robbins. So like halfway down that page, you see where it's, it shows paragraph 4 specifically.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And certainly we can get into a discussion how good the form is in terms of the citation form. But the way I've always looked at these citations is we've got to go by what the complainant is checked off. Even though we see other. Please.
Sorry. As far as the legal aspect of it, I wasn't able to see the charge documents. You guys just pulled it up. So in that case, then yes, it would be an inappropriate charge. What was it? So this would be the wrong charging violation, the wrong charging code. Because again, unless we agree that the dog attacked them, if we agree it was an attack, then it is the correct charge. But you need to put in there the actual paragraph. So in this case, it should have been paragraph 6, as we talked about earlier. But if it's that case, then this is the wrong portion of the charge, and it'd be administratively not filled out properly. So therefore, I don't think we can rule in favor of it now.
Is there a definition for attack?
No. So it's just going off of kind of the generally accepted common definition of the word attack and a reasonable interpretation of that.
All right. If I
Yeah.
may, before we move any further, I mean, I guess we're getting pretty close to either dismissing or upholding this citation. Am I correct? Am I stepping on anybody's toes here with this? But basically, I want to point out to Ms. Williams that, there's a couple things that we should, just for the general well-being of the community and what's going on, the animal being off, running at large, she mentioned using an electric collar. There's things that, the county code that, the dog needs to be on a leash and under control to be considered, not running at large, unless your dog's at a licensed dog park or something like that. So your community beach, having the dog off the leash, things like that are not going to be appropriate. And I think it's pretty obvious after going through this. I'm hoping this is a wake up call, but I just like to point these things out to make sure that we don't have another situation and to put some peace of mind to Mr. Frank that, regardless of what happens here with the citation, as far as the actual legalities of what's been submitted to this point, those are some very, very easy common sense steps. Secondary barriers with your dog so they can't get out of the house when you open the door. There's certain things that you can take to make sure that animal can't get off. A physical barrier always supersedes and is always better than an electric barrier. So I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that before we.
No, I agree with Tom. I mean, and certainly the bigger picture here we have to look at is trying to make sure that animals and neighbors live well together and live in a healthy environment. And certainly the situation that Ms. Williams presents here, leads me to believe that this is, as Tom said, this is a wake-up call, that this may be potentially the first of many more incidents to follow. And that's kind of what we don't want to see. So that's why we're making these comments. And then the other thing I'd like to just say, because I think we're getting ready to make a decision here, is that and I'm presuming we dismiss this based on the way the citations presented. That doesn't preclude Mr. Frank, and I want him to understand, this doesn't preclude Mr. Frank from filing other citations with other articles noted, i.e. the running at large, which I think every one of us felt was painfully obvious. And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you for your time.
Yes, I would just interject that I don't think that we have clear evidence here of an attack, but we do have overwhelming evidence of at large. Unfortunately, or fortunately, no matter of your perspective, we're here to decide whether there was an attack that would lead to a public safety threat. So given that would be what our decision would have to be based on, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing here. And I do agree with, I believe it was Dr. Hemmer that first said that it appeared that the guy was startled. There were no bite marks on record, I don't think. I didn't get the doctor's evidence either in here, or
Well, the doctor's evidence actually presents for dog attack, no bite. It actually says that in his
it
summary.
actually said no bite.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's my thought. There was no bite. It's probably a startled. The dog definitely should not be running at large onto anyone else's property. And I heard that. I believe we're all on the same page with the running at large issue, but that's not before us today. Before us is whether there was an attack and whether this dog, because of the attack, poses a public safety threat. So with that,
I just want to add though that under any normal circumstance, I don't think, in my opinion, a bite has to occur in order for there to have been an attack. I think there are other ways that an animal can attack. I mean, had this been a big dog, like a Great Dane or something, and it had jumped up and pushed on the gentleman's shoulders and sent him back, to me, that might have been an attack. So I don't think that it's necessarily, was there a bite, was there not a bite? And I don't want anybody, I wouldn't want to give the public the impression that if they weren't bitten, they couldn't bring a citation. I just want to make clear to anyone else who might be watching this, that if this gets dismissed today, it really is because of a technicality, because I don't think we have a clear definition of attacks, and I don't think we can say for certain, at least not more likely than not, which is our standard here today, that the box that we heard enough evidence for the box that was checked on the citation, or for the actual charge that was listed on the citation. I wouldn't want to discourage anyone else if they had an issue like this from filing. I think I'm assuming it's going to be dismissed, but if it is, it's just on a technicality only, and not because we don't think what happened was wrong and should be addressed.
I agree with Jennifer wholeheartedly. I think anybody watching this, they should hear from the whole commission that this is really more of a technical discussion between the commission members in terms of dismissal more than anything else. But what this dog did was wrong. And, potentially this is, I said earlier, this is potentially setting Miss Williams up for more problems down the road if she doesn't rein this thing in a little bit, in my humble opinion. And I don't think Jennifer could have said it any better than she did. I agree with her wholeheartedly.
Yes, that is correct. Had the dog jumped up and pushed the complainant back, caused him to knock his head on the flower pot or whatever it was, yes. And we do have a big problem that with the at-large. Had that been checked, it would be a totally different communication here on the commission. So let's see here. Okay. Anybody have any proposal for a motion here?
Well, I'll make a motion that based on what we discussed, and this is really more a technical matter than anything else, I make a motion that we dismiss the citation ending in 6463 presented to us today.
Second.
All right, we have. Hello? I'm sorry?
We hear you. You're hanging, Ed.
Okay, I'm in there.
There you go.
My video is glitching. I'm hoping that everybody can hear me. Okay, we do have a motion in front of us and a second. So, all in favor? Okay. Motion passes.
Again, for the record, Ed, are you?
I abstain. I abstain. There was a motion made and seconded. I was going to try to get another one in there, but this one was made and seconded and then has passed. So. Okay. With that, two matters, Nicole, we want to welcome you. And if you want to introduce yourself to the rest of the commission, I guess it would be a good thing, good time to do that.
Sure. I'm Nicole Dooley. I am currently employed by the federal government. I spend my free time volunteering at Animal Care and Control, in addition to the SPCA in Annapolis. So care deeply about animals. And so that's what drew me to this commission. I've been watching for the last year or so. So I'm familiar with the process and just happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome, Nicole.
Welcome, Nicole.
Okay, does everybody have the minutes of the last meetings here?
Yes.
Okay, we have one for March. And I'd just like to point out, though, Robin, I think there is a mistake on the March 6th minutes with the motion of Jennifer's and seconded by Matthews. We have 5 yeses, and I think I was one of the yeses on there, but I was left out. You see that?
Which you're talking about for the first case?
No, it would be the second page of the March 6th, where it says total of yeses 5,
Okay,
and there's only 4 checked. I should be one of those.
okay. Should be able to make that correction. Any other corrections?
Other than that, I don't see any. Does anyone else?
It looks like someone tried to check that box, Robin. It looks like it just was made into a larger box instead of checked, turned black or whatever.
That's what it, yeah.
Okay, with that correction, I have a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by Jennifer, second by Tom. And I don't think we have any more business in front of us today, do we, Robin?
Just need to, I guess, carry the vote on that.
Pardon me?
Just need to carry the vote. That was made by Brienza, seconded by Berja. What's the vote, the official vote on those meeting minutes?
Oh, okay, all in favor, I'm sorry.
I'll abstain.
Okay,
And Lieutenant Tillman, did you abstain as well?
you're muted, sir.
I'm sorry, well, I couldn't hear the first part. What's the vote for?
Did you abstain on the minute vote?
Approving the meeting minutes from the 3/6/23 meeting with the correction to the.
I approve the correction. Thank you.
Got it. I think that's everything.
Okay, I believe our next session will be August 7th. Everybody wants to make a note on that?
Yep, August 7th. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for your patience while I'm trying to fill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, good job today, Robin. Good
Yes.
job today.
Yeah, I know it's rough. There's a lot of technicalities on these things. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was too technical. But anyway, everybody have a wonderful holiday tomorrow. Please be safe in your travels and everything. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn for the holidays.
Okay. Do I hear a second? Second?
I second.
Okay, Jennifer seconds it. Okay, guys,
All in favor.
all in favor?
See ya. Happy 4th.
Yeah, happy 4th, guys.
Happy 4th, everybody.
Happy 4th, everybody. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Be safe and be well. See you next
Yes.
month.
All right. Good to see you all.